Awesome. So now we're gonna go into probably our picks for like best episodes of like the franchise and worst episodes. I'll start with best episodes. Obviously, if you're talking TNG, best episode, one of the best, if not the best, is The Best of Both Worlds, where the Borg reemerge and they have to try and combat them. And it also plays into whether or not Riker can be a commander on his own, because he's willing to give the order to fire, even though his superior has been taken over by enemy forces and coerced. And I thought it was a great episode, watching that beginning to end. It's so great that they actually played it in theaters about a year ago, I think, to celebrate that episode's own anniversary.
Want to know something weird, though? I went to the video shop the other, a while back, and I found the weirdest Blu-ray. You know the TNG episodes where Data and Picard go undercover and go to Romulan?
Yeah.
And then they find Spock as an ambassador. Mm-hmm. Just those, 2 or 3 episodes, one Blu-ray. It was $40.
$40 just for that?
It's so weird.
Yeah, that is weird, because I have seen...
it was $30 or $40. It was just, this insane price. I mean, you were better off buying the season box.
Yeah, for a little bit more money, you get all the episodes in that season.
Yeah.
It's not uncommon, though, because you can get Best of Both Worlds on its own on a Blu-ray.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen Future Shop have it just on its own. As far as Next Gen, obviously the premiere, Encounter at Farpoint, still a great episode to watch. It gives us the introduction of Q, and just, the music and the scale of that. I always love, episode...
Sorry, you go on about Q's first appearance, and automatically those dancing Ferengis in the background just pop in my head. It was like, hey, Riker, you want Power of God? Here's some weird shit in the background. It's boop! Back then they didn't know what to do with the Ferengi, so they were just, hopping around, we're evil. Okay, so best episode for you was...
Well, I'm just going kind of I'm just cherry picking my own episodes here and there. Actually, I was just going to go off the best episode for a second, talk about Ferengi. It was so funny the way they introduced the Ferengi in Next Gen was just whenever they're on the view screen, they were right up close to the camera, and then the white thing behind them was just we're the Ferengi, we're the most evil. We are the evil of the we will destroy the Federation and all this shit. And then they get beamed onto another planet, and they find out they're just wormy little money grubbing trolls, basically.
Yep.
It's just yes, when do we get our share of the profits?
Oh, yeah.
I bet 20 bars of gold pressed platinum.
Oh, man.
Although DS9 Ferengis are some of my favorite characters. Quark, Rom.
Friggin' Quark, man. Quark was DS9 for me.
There's that part in the Season 4 premiere where the Klingons are about to attack the station, and Odo's just trying to get everyone off, and it's just he's just in course, no, I'm going to stay here and defend my business. It's with this. And he's a box, and it's it's my old disruptor pistol. He opens it up, there's a note. He's Dear Quark, I used your parts from your phaser to repair the replicator. Will return soon. Rom. He grabs it and he's I'll kill him. With what? Okay, yeah, I'm going to just go for my series. So, DS9, some of my favorite episodes were, the two-parters that involved battle. So, Way of the Warrior, which introduced Worf, brought the Klingons as a threat because they were scared of the Dominion, and they thought the Cardassians were in collusion with them, which they weren't at first, but then they were. Any episode that had, a gigantic battle in it was awesome, except for the finale, because, unfortunately, they just reused old shots. And I'm the finale is where you blow your budget on. You spend more money on it. Let's get some new shots in there. Although there was a cool loop-de-loop shot that, Nog. Rom's son. Which, in that last season, he had a lot of character development because they're on a planet that was a key, strategic point for the Federation, and they had to fend it off until reinforcements got there. He got shot in the leg, and it severed his leg, and Bashir's I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to amputate it. And he's no! then like he goes gone for like a couple episodes, and he comes back and he's limping because he's got like a prosthetic on there. But it's like the 24th century. Prosthetics are a little bit better than what we have now.
Yeah.
But he's just like, it hurts, and it's like, well, it's not supposed to hurt, but it's like, but it does, and he ends up like just sitting in that 1940s casino holodeck program with that with like the only other sentient hologram in existence. Oh, sorry, third. There's Voyager's EMH. There's that club owner, and then there's that blonde chick. Moriarty,
don't forget Moriarty.
Oh, Moriarty, yeah.
So that's 4. Love that episode.
The butler from The Nanny.
The butler from The Nanny.
Oh, God.
Hey, don't trash talk. Like, he did a good job.
DS9, any episode that had the big battles in them, those were always my favorite. Voyager.
No, it's weird, that Moriarty is actually my favorite Moriarty out of all the Sherlock Holmes, like, in all the Sherlock Holmes continuity of everything Sherlock Holmes, he's my favorite. I don't know why.
What, you didn't like future Will Robinson from Lost in Space Moriarty?
Oh, come on.
That's the guy from a game of Death or something. Whatever the second Sherlock Holmes Robert Downey Jr. one is.
Oh, no,
the guy who plays Moriarty in that is future Will Robinson from the Lost in Space movie. The one that's all scraggly. He's
yeah.
I'm gonna make a portal so we never leave this damn planet. And
and
then William Hurt's just like, no, son, you can't do it. I'm William Hurt acting.
No,
I hated William Hurt.
That actor just irked me. But anyway.
Yeah. So Voyager Caretaker, still an awesome episode. My like obscure favorite one is the I forget the name of the fighting style that they call it. It was Tensaki. You know which one I'm talking about.
Tusakis.
Okay,
bartender. Tusakis.
Okay, so the guy Jeffrey Combs, who is probably like the best character actor outside Vaughn Armstrong in Star Trek history, who was Wei-Yun in DS9. He was Commander Shran in Enterprise, the Andorian, the one that kept calling Archer Pinkskin. He plays like this ship that promotes like mixed martial arts fights. And the guy who does Martok is in there as a Hirogen, and he teaches 7 of 9 to fight. So it's like, okay, we're gonna put 7 of 9 in the fight against the jabroni beating, pie eating, trailblazing, eyebrow raising, people's champ, The Rock. And the whole time I'm like, there's no video of this on YouTube. I can't make one because I don't want copyright strikes on my channel. But if I could, I would put JR commentary on that. Because like, oh, probable, right hands, and then at the end, like he like hits everything on her, and then goes rock bottom, rock scores with a rock bottom.
Oh my god!
And like when he enters, I want them to have like the if you smell what the Rock is cooking. One thing I wanted to bring up with that too is that the reason The Rock was on that episode, and then later on The Big Show was on an episode of Enterprise as an Orion slave trader, is because at that time SmackDown was on UPN before it became CW and all that.
Yep.
So what they like to do, what WWE likes to do, is it likes to throw its superstars onto those programs. So later when CW came around and Smallville was on, Batista was on an episode, and then there was Kane and Ashley Mazzaro. Now when they have USA and Sci-Fi, Edge is a regular on Haven, and they actually put Christian on there. So you got Edge and Christian on Haven. That's pretty sweet.
Oh, God.
And then USA with like Burn Notice and White Collar and Psych and all those shows. They like to put the Bellas on there, Miz, Big Show, Sheamus, a bunch of other ones like that. Anyways, that was just cool little trivia. Enterprise.
Okay, so you covered most of your best.
Yeah. For Enterprise, it's like the first episode, Broken Bow, always good. The season 4 finale up until the cliffhanger was really good. Like basically the Zendi and their version of the Death Star, and just like the final battle on that, because it was so climactic. And then the whole what's going on, the lead into season 4, and then unfortunately the downfall of the series, in my opinion. Season 4 is not a good season. Like the first couple are great to get you into like, okay, we're exploring space, we're meeting new people, we don't know how to speak their language, the translator won't work all the time, so this has to happen, or we developing our weapons, which is pretty cool. And then, like, as soon as season 2 ends, it's just like, this alien comes, wrecks shit, cuts Florida in half, kills like 7 million people, and it's just like, they're like, you get into that area, you find out who the fuckers who did this, and you take them down. And he's like, yeah, and then they go take off. Okay, so those are my best episodes. What were yours?
Best episodes for me, like I mentioned earlier, the one with the Borg and lore, and and that fingernail thing that made me irk. That would make a Data orgasm.
That was that's where he got the emotion chip, right?
Yep.
Because they deactivated lore and he took it out, and then he stuck it in, and then that's when he took it out in Generations, which didn't look anything like the original. But nitpicking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely that one. Believe it or not, you talked about. You talked about, like, your favorite was the one about Wolf...
Wolf 359.
359. Oddly enough, I thought that one was alright. It was monumental and all that, and, mucho respect for that. I liked the episode, but I didn't, like, love it, because, I love Will Riker, and it was a cool episode. The one I liked a little better was the one where, basically, Picard had to basically become the representative of the Federation on Kronos, if I'm pronouncing that right.
Kronos? Oh, okay, so the Klingon homeworld?
Yeah, so any episode that featured a lot of political, like, struggle with the Klingons and just Picard having to step in because he had the special look at me, I'm Picard kind of shine that the Klingons just love, So any episode that featured, like, a lot of like the planet Kronos, just because it's really cool, because getting into, like, that's where you really get your hands dirty into the whole Klingon political system. And even the return of Kalis was a cool episode, because it's kind of cool, because the cool parallel would be like, maybe one day we'll get as far in genetics where we could actually take a tiny piece of Jesus and make a new Jesus. I mean, how would you react? What would you do? So I found that was really cool.
Sorry for giggling, but when you're mentioning, like, all the glory that is Kronos, I thought of that episode of Enterprise where they captured those aliens and they're just like, hey, if you don't kill us, we'll give you this holodeck technology. And it's like, we can remake Kronos for you. So they remake Kronos, and the Klingon commander's like, I can see my house from here.
Oh, God. That's the stupidest thing ever. Speaking of Enterprise, another episode I liked was the one where Archer and his crew were on the original Enterprise from the original series.
Oh, the mirror episode? Love it. I completely forgot about it. That two-parter where it's the mirror universe. It starts off with First Contact. The exact same scene. Instead of Cochrane shoving his hand to say, hey, he's like, live long and prosper. No, pull out a shotgun, eat shit and die, boom! And the guys are like, let's raid the ship, yeah! They run in, they raid all the technology, and then it starts that alternate opening to Enterprise. So no cheesy pop song, it's just like, dun, 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 and it shows like, there's all this war propaganda. Love that one. It wasn't really the Enterprise, it was the Defiant, which was the same type of ship, but... It was a loss in that in the Tholian Web episode of Enterprise, or not Enterprise, the original series.
Well,
that's the one where Kirk's like floating everywhere. He's like, Spock, I'm floating in outer space.
I can see that, Captain. But what I don't know. Like I said, I have a special soft spot for the original series, and seeing, like, the crew of the latest, like, the newest series just go, like, this is such advanced technology. We can do anything with these weapons. And they're in a set where, like, half of it is cardboard and analog knobs and all that. It's like, yeah, real advanced.
Watching Ensign Mayweather operate the torpedo launcher, that little scope that comes up, and then you hear, like, that, the old school sound effects.
That was just a beautiful love letter. Another I think another episode that hits my soft spot for the original series was that DS9 episode where Quark and Worf go back in time, and they kind of bring attention to the ridges. It's like
Trouble with Trouble's 100th episode.
Yeah.
How could I forget that? And the other 30th anniversary episode that they did on Voyager, the one where like Tuvok's like, I got this thing in my brain. It makes me like I twitch out when I see a girl falling off a cliff, and he does a mind meld with Janeway, and then all of a sudden we're Star Trek 6 with Decay.
That was a cool episode.
Shields. They like reenact the opening to Star Trek 6, and then. But like DS9, the whole Ridges thing, which they do eventually bring up in Enterprise with Klingon Uncle Phil, James Avery, or Klingon Shredder, whatever you want to call him.
Tonight I dine on Enterprise soup.
But yeah, that episode with those it's like wait, where are the Klingons? Like over there. They'll all look at Worf. It's like they are Klingons. What the hell happened? It's like we do not discuss it with outsiders.
I think that was a fair point. That was a good way to brush off the thing.
And they're just like basically it was the whole like Forrest Gump technology of like inserting people into old footage.
Jenny!
Congratulations, how's it feel to be an All-American? I gotta pay. I believe he says he's gotta pay. Is that your run for favorite episodes?
And actually, you mentioned one obscure episode that you loved. I have an obscure episode I love too. It's not particularly seen as a super good episode, but it makes me laugh out loud. Like the first time I saw it, I laughed so hard it almost made me pee. There's an episode where Kirk and Spock are like, the usual trio, Kirk, Spock, Bones. They're in this cave, and they're dealing with another like trope of original Trek, where they're dealing with a super being. And here's the thing: there is like, I'll sick my super death mauler at you. It's like, oh no, the super monster. Oh no, it's like, you know what they did? They basically what they did. They blue screened a cat. It was a literal black cat. And they had it on a huge set, and the green screen, the crew being all tiny. And it just made me laugh so hard. It's like, Attack of the House Cat. This is like angry video game nerd level of effects. And I was like, yes, I love it!
The thing I was thinking of, though, is that when you're talking about they're going into a cave, I was thinking of the one where Spock mind melds with that, like, goopy alien and goes like, I feel... pain! Pain!
Oh.
Either that one or the one where the South Park ripped it off, where their planetarium, and it's like oh, I'm going to mess your mind, and then like they send like this like Frankenstein monster against Kirk, and he rips off a piece of rock and he's shaped like a dick.
Yeah,
it's like a big purple dick, and he's just like swinging it at him.
I remember that.
Oh god.
Last one for best episode. After that, I'll tackle worst. Last one, and it's actually kind of heavy. It was when, oh god, it's been a long time since I saw the episode. It was the episode where, the security officer died in Next Gen. What?
Be more specific. Oh, Tasha!
Tasha. It was the episode where Tasha Yar died. That one just like, oh man, that just hit the heartstrings. But what I found was actually kind of... you're probably going to think I'm a monster, but when she referenced the night she slept with Data when everybody got all hormone crazy...
Yeah, the Sulu topless fencing drug.
I laughed a little. I'm so ashamed, but I kind of laughed because it's like, Data, you were a fine lover. It's like...
Everyone's like... He was like... I basically... Wait, what? You are equipped?
I'm fully... What was the line?
I have fully functional...
and anatomically correct.
Something like, programmed with multiple techniques. And he goes fucks and Borg Queen like 7 years later. Yep.
I don't think that was canon, but it can be implied.
How bad would that feel? Right before, in Nemesis, right after Bane kills himself. I'm sorry. Since Dark Knight Rises, I can never watch Nemesis without seeing fucking Tom Hardy and the Bane mask. So it's just like, it is about destiny. My destiny. We are spread for war and conquest.
The galaxy is yours. I almost made him spit out some water.
And your Federation prince. And you have my permission to die. Sorry, like I'm had this bad Photoshop of the Bane mask over Tom Hardy the whole time.
Oh god.
But yeah, can you imagine though with Data, like right before he fires, this is like, wait, I only had sex with 2 women in 10 years. Oh fuck. Let I hit the mic, sorry. Okay, so yeah, that's our best episodes in a little bit. Okay. Worst episodes.
I'm gonna be quick about this. Worst episodes. The first 2 seasons of Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, I agree. Minus the emissary of the first episode, I thought was all right.
No, yeah. Well, the pilot,
Yeah,
the pilot is usually
always,
all right because that's what kicks off the series. Because if the pilot's not good, there would be no series.
Yeah.
The first couple seasons of TNG, I'm sad to say, there's just this one episode that irked the shit out of me. It was that one where it was that pseudo-African planet where they're like, Tasha had to fight in this really sexist contest, like, and the king tried to hit on her.
I think I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a weird episode. I really didn't like it. Oh my god. And one episode that makes me laugh though was I'm still gonna call it bad, but it's bad in a good way.
Okay.
It was the episode where the gender roles were reversed. Remember that planet where basically men were like women and women were like men? That's how it was a matriarchal society. And, Riker, he was hitting on the...
Oh, yeah.
He was hitting on the queen, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I remember that one.
Sexy beard.
Anything from Enterprise, Voyager?
Enterprise, didn't watch enough of it, but I think what irked me a lot about Enterprise was that I felt a little bit left in the dust sometimes. Like, there was so much shit happening that you weren't too clear about, like, whoa, okay, now the blue people hate them? Okay, fine, alright. So that became a thing, is like, oh, wait, no, like, what? It's like, didn't they save a Klingon at the start of the series, and now they're fighting the Klingon? It's like, oh my god, there was so much shit happening in Enterprise at once. I think I'm not going to pin an episode because I haven't seen a lot of Enterprise, but I think it's just that thing of the series where it left a lot of, like, newcomers in the dust. That irked me about Enterprise. And what did you say, the other series?
Voyager.
Voyager, I'm going to say that weird evolution episode.
Oh, Warp 10?
Yeah.
Yes. Everybody hates that episode. And I can also tell you why. Because in All Good Things, the finale of Next Generation, where Picard's warping, like going back and forth through time. When he goes in the future, everyone says, let's get out of here, Warp 13. And it's like, Warp 13? How fast is that? And then they have that episode of Voyager where it's like, it's theoretically impossible to go past Warp 10. It's like, well, Riker could go to Warp 13. Did they just recategorize their speeds after a while? And didn't they have like this thing that, because like some guy had a warp core breach and he made this giant rift that you can't go and warp, and then they were just like, okay, the Federation has said that maximum warp is now warp 5,
that's another,
unless mandated by the Federation and for extreme emergencies.
That's another bad episode I gotta bring up. I can't warp 55.
Yeah,
you ever heard that one? It was when the U.S. was having this whole thing where they were trying to lower the speed limit to, like, reduce gas emissions.
Yeah.
And they translated that into an episode of TNG where it's like, turns out that warping through space is causing anomalies and it's really bad.
It's bad for the environment.
Yeah, and it's bad for space because space is a finite amount of space where you can't avoid giant, obvious anomalies. And apparently, like, there was these protesters as like, and then she died in the whole huge warp bubbles. Like, oh,
no, she forced it. She's like, you guys won't believe me, so I have to do it. And she like lets off a war card breach and it makes this.
Yeah, that's
thing.
what happened. Yeah.
I think they were able to get in and save her and then get out. But then that's when they mandated everything. I'm just waiting for the episode after that. It's like, fellow delegates of the United Federation of Planets, engineers of Starfleet, we present to you the USS Prius.
USS Prius.
It's galactically friendly. Thanks. everyone's so smug flying around in their Prius Federation ships.
Ladies and gentlemen, we now present you this very important address by Al Gore the Fourth.
Warp drive emissions are killing the galactic systems. Well, I've developed. All right, we're getting.
I'm being super thorough here, guys. You're hurting the galaxy.
So I think you've gotten everything. For me, worst episodes. God, TNG. I think anytime that they were in the holodeck and it malfunctioned, there's like one that it was a Western and Data was the villain. Like it was Worf and Alexander.
Dude, I'm going.
Okay. I'm gonna say this.
Okay.
Anything with Alexander, I hated that little shit. I didn't mind him in Deep Space Nine because I got another actor to play him because he was all grown up. But he was just like the bumbling Klingon. He's like, I don't know what to do. Here, carry this blood wine for our troops. It's like, okay. And he's like tripping over shit. That's the only Alexander I like. Fuck that little kid.
He became Space Butters.
Oh jeez.
Oh jeez, we gotta carry the blood wine. Oh jeez.
We will crush the Federation.
Oh, that's
Kapluck! What's Kapluck? Does it hurt? I don't want to do it if it hurts. If it makes you feel all sticky. Deep Space Nine, of course. The first few seasons are just horrible. Anything, or even after the first few seasons, anything with that Kyle Lang, or the leader of the Bajorans that I wanted to see fucking die every episode. Never dies until the finale.
I think
thanks to Cot.
You're not alone in that one. A lot of people hated that one.
Voyager. I don't like the Tuvix episode. Tuvix annoyed the fuck out of me, and I was like, it was like just a moral decision. Do I kill this new breed of life to save two people? Just you do it because he's fucking annoying.
He's a fucking freak of nature. He's not supposed to exist. Split him apart already.
To exist. I am real people. And as penance for stealing his lungs, they were like, let's see if we can give someone else steal lungs. And he starts scanning everyone and he gets to the doctor. It's like, It's like, strange. According to this, you're not here. And he's like, believe me, I wish I weren't. The early Robert Picardo days when it's just his deadpan expressions was like glorious. Anyways, so she like makes a deal to give up the Vidians. I'm like, where did this hate come from? It's like you tricked me, you manipulated me. It's like you turned into pure energy. Like, what the fuck did you want? Like, it's another one of those issues where the writers just forgot. I mean, there has to be people on staff for these type of things that like have a Bible in like the writing room or the scripting process. It's like, I want to do this and this and this happens. It's like, well, you can't do this because this character has already done this and it would contradict everything you had done. I wish this thing would exist in pro wrestling, but that's another topic for another podcast. I'm not going to get into that.
Well, oddly enough, you mentioned like keeping continuity straight. Well, I think Star Trek relies a lot on the fans to fix a lot of the continuity, and it shows because over the years there have been like the most infamous thing about continuity was the Klingon ridges.
Yeah,
and unlike like there's it's funny that you mentioned continuity and somebody in charge of that. Well, in Marvel Comics, they actually have a guy who does nothing but keep the continuity straight.
Didn't they have one for Lucas before everything got sold to Disney? Because didn't he try to put Darth Maul and Darth Talon together?
I think so, yeah.
And then someone had to explain to him, it's like, no, she's from the old Republic, 4,000 years. And he's like, no, but they're friends now. I want them to be friends. It's like, you can't have it. You can't just keep making shit up as you go along, George. It's like, why can't I? And it's just like, someone buy us, please. And then Disney bought it. It's like, thank God, we can get back on track now on stuff. Anyway, I'm hard. Oh, ultimate bad episode.
Okay.
Enterprise. There is an episode with the Borg in it.
Oh, you talked about that.
Yes,
when
and
and
then I cut it off because I was like, all right, say this for the podcast. There is an episode that in First Contact, apparently, a piece of the sphere landed in the Antarctic after the Enterprise blew it up. There were drones on there. An excavation team found the pieces of the sphere, and those drones reactivated and assimilated that excavation team and started to assimilate their ship. And then they started heading back to the Delta Quadrant. And somehow, they were able to assimilate the ship enough where they actually made a transwarp conduit. And they were this close. You can't see it on an audio podcast, but I'm doing this with my fingers. This close to getting back. They even tried to assimilate Phlox. But he fought it off by nuking himself in one of the radioactive surgical bays in sick bay. And he said for a split second, he was linked to the Collective. And he heard that they sent a transwarp signal to the Delta Quadrant telling the Borg to come to Earth. And when one of those like hint, wink, wink, this happens in the regular series, Archer says, so we've saved them till how long? The 24th century? Completely contradicting the episode with Q going like, I want to be in the Starfleet. And Picard's like, fat chance. And it's like, okay, welcome to the Delta Quadrant. This is a Borg. They're on their way. You can't stop them. Oh, by the way, they're going to laser off a part of your saucer section and kill your people and make them part of their collective. It was one of those... I imagine this was them in the writing room going like, I want the Borg and Enterprise. It's like, well, the reason for this series is that we don't have any of that. I mean, how about you have like people that are close to the Borg that maybe have a few implants that are like, the first Borgs, and they're like, oh, well, we want to add more. We think that adding more will add to our perfection. Have something like that. It's another one of those like hint, hint, wink, 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 nudge, nudge type things. Kind of like what Gotham's doing with Ivy. Like, it's like, hey, Ivy, she's crazy. Gordon killed her dad and her mom slit her wrist, and now she's going to go nuts and learn how to control leaves with her mind. Hint, hint, this is Poison Ivy. She'd have like a megaphone. It's like, this is Poison Ivy. She's going to be a Batman villain someday. This is Selena Kyle. We got a girl that looks like a cat. They name her Cat. Get it? Catwoman. This is the Borg. This is our go-to for everything. I think it's like, well, what if the Borg from First Contact were still alive? But they're not. But what if they were? But they weren't. What if they were? Just like, oh, fine, put your fucking Borgs in for one episode. If you're ever going to marathon Enterprise and that episode comes up, just skip it entirely. You're not missing much. Like, they easily defeat them.
Oh, yeah.
And to get around the fact that they'll never know that they were the Borg, as soon as Archer hails them, it's just like, this is Captain Archer of the Starship. And then you hear just, resistance is futile. You will be assimilated. And that was it. But, like,
thanks.
Do yourself a favor, just skip that episode altogether. It's infuriating. It's just like, you wanted to get your Borgs in one last time, didn't you? So there you go.
That's hurrah for the Borg.
Yep.
They couldn't do something cool like bump into like the Voyager amalgamous satellite or something.
That's
like
one of the funny things is that in some expanded universe stuff, they tend to think that Voyager is like the beginnings of the Borg. Mm-hmm. Like, that was the first thing that or ever sent out. It made it to the Delta Quadrant, and some aliens assimilated it and took pieces or whatever. It sent it back. And then, like, after that energy release, because they got a taste of humanity, and it's just like, whoa, well, we can do this. But I got a video game called Legacy, where they have their own expanded thing, where this this Vulcan commander takes her vessel into the, like, just starts a journey towards the Delta Quadrant, because she heard these rumorings of these cybernetic beings with the perfect mind, and she wanted to experience that. So that's how they came up with the Borg. It's told in narration by Patrick Stewart. Apparently, he retained this as Locutus or something.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. But yeah, that's our run for worst episodes. I think we were going to end this off with just general funny observations that we noticed. I had to cross out one of them because I talked about it earlier with The Rock and Big Show showing up in Voyager and Enterprise, respectively, due to the fact that SmackDown was on UPN and was cross-branding. Of course, you never ever saw, like, Jerry Ryan or God, what's that girl's name? Jolene Beelock, the girl that was T'Pol. You never see them show up in SmackDown, but then again, you didn't really want to.
It's funny that you say that, because now the WWE's having these like guest star days where they bring in like
Larry the Cable Guy, and he just kills anything that happened. Like, Stardust came out and he's just like, oh, jeez, how did I go just poop my pants?
It's like,
Okay. So one of the things we wanted to talk about for observations is this little funny quirk. And it always stuck with me with Voyager. And when we were marathoning Voyager, Melanie and I actually had a Google document open. I was counting how many torpedoes they wasted. Because in the second or third episode where they find that nebula, that's not a nebula, it's life form. And they get stuck, and they start firing phasers to get out. And it's like, it's got no effect as before. And Chakotay's like, we have a complement of 38 photon torpedoes. And Janeway's like, and no way to replace them after they're gone. It's just like, okay, this is kind of a neat little thing. It's like, yeah, they're in dire straits. They can't really go wasting these things because they can't replenish their supply. They're not at a starbase or any other shipyard to replenish their supply. So I thought it was like, okay, they got 38. I'm going to see how many they fired throughout the series. Eventually, I lost interest. Until I found out that someone on YouTube already did this.
Yep.
Counting down from 38, including all the special modifications they made, the one with the Borg modifications, and the one to take out the Omega particles. They fired 99 not even... Yeah,
80, 89?
No. It was minus 85 by the time 85. They got back. And this is, of course... and I completely forgot to mention this in my best of videos, but Year of Hell, that two-parter is one of my favorite ones because it's like, here's what happens when you're just relentlessly attacked and you can't take a breather to repair anything. There's holes in your ship, nothing works, and it just looks like all hell. They don't count those torpedo launches because that's retcon because of time, space, all that. That's another one of my favorites. Another one of my favorites is the one where the Hirogen take over and make like a gigantic holodeck. So there's like one that runs. There's one that runs a Klingon death simulation, and then there's one that runs a World War II simulation.
Yeah, that was cool.
I kind of wish they would have done it like Captain America style. Get Tom Paris dressed up like Captain America. Everyone's shooting their like fake little guns, and then you just rush in, starts throwing your shield everywhere. Ding, 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 ding. It's like, this is so cool. That's what I want to see holodecks used for. Becoming superheroes.
Hollow Captain America.
Hollow Marvel Ultimate Alliance. Can you imagine just like, okay guys, activate Marvel Ultimate Alliance. It's like, who are you going to pick? And they're like, you're sliding through stuff like Minority Report, and it's just like, I'm going to pick Wolfie. Sweet. But yeah, so torpedo count. So it's this funny little video that's out there. It goes from the beginning of the series to the end, and it counts every single photon torpedo that was launched. And besides the modified ones, they start with 38, and they get to minus 85, which, doing the math in my head, that's like 118 photon torpedoes since the end of the series. So they tripled the amount that they had since then. Not
to mention, like, every time you said full spread.
Oh, yeah. How many times they said full spread? Or dispersal pattern Sierra was one of the ones.
And let's not forget, fire everything!
Yeah, they fired everything. One of the things, too, is that they don't count the transphasic torpedoes because those were ones that Admiral Janeway brought from the future.
Yep.
Those were the ones that, like, destroyed Borg cubes in one hit.
Although it's funny that you mentioned, while we're observing stuff, an episode of Voyager that actually comes to mind now was the one where Chakotay and oh god, what's the it's funny because I remember his real name, but I don't remember his character's name. Garrett Wang's character?
Kim.
Ensign Kim. Ensign Kim and Chakotay basically are like future versions of themselves.
Oh, yes! That was the 100th episode.
Yeah.
Directed by LeVar Burton, and he was actually in it as Captain LaForge. He had his own Galaxy-class starship. That was like the Enterprise D. That
was a cool episode, and actually I really like the effects they had for the older Kim and Chakotay.
Garrett Wang in interviews have always said that he hated that because whenever they ever did future episodes, he was the only one that got prosthetics to make him look older. Everyone else just got like a tint of gray in their hair or whatever.
Well, yeah, because it was the youngest crewman on the bridge. Well, I don't... Was Paris in that episode? Like a future Paris?
In that episode? No. Kim and Chakotay were the only two that lived because they were in the Delta Flyer. Voyager just crossed the Alpha Quadrant and landed on an ice planet. Pretty much everyone died on impact, but their bodies preserved because it froze over.
Yeah, I remember that. That was the emotional hook of that episode.
Is that Kim was responsible for killing everyone, and then they couldn't find them.
It's your fault, Kim! Ah!
He's like, no, you have to accept it and move on. He's like, no, I can't accept it. We live in a universe of time travel and time paradoxes. Screw Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah, and screw evolution, apparently.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I'm bringing that up again.
Oh, God, that Warp 10. It's like, I don't know which one's the captain. The female, obviously.
God.
Well, speaking of evolution, how about evolution of effects? Because, man, like, the budget for, in DS9, the budget for effects in Voyager greatly increased. Because I always show one scene to anyone. I'm just like, look how much they've evolved. Here's an episode of Voyager where the two ships are just standing still and just shooting back and forth at each other. Now take this scene. I always use that Hirogen battle, but I think I'm going to start using the battle with the Equinox, the other Federation ship. The one that John Savage, Captain Ransom, commands. Because that two-parter was excellent. It's just like, how do you deal with a ship that experienced things differently than Voyager, was treated like shit the whole time that they were there. It has less resources. They've lost more crew members, and then they just say, "Fuck our principles. Fuck the Prime Directive. I need to survive, and if it means killing some aliens that come from another dimension and use them as fuel, I'm going to do it." And then Janeway's saying, "No, it's wrong." It's like, well, Miss High and Mighty, you're sitting in a ship with all of your bulkheads intact, and I'm barely hanging on. And then they start having these epic fights. And then, and then comes the Generations thing, where I think, because in Generations, remember how they rigged LaForge's visor to spy on them, and then when they found out the shield modulation, they started wrecking shit. Yep. At no point did they say, "Let's rotate our shields because they're cutting through us like butter."
Yeah, and the Borg,
and then Tuvok does that, and it's like, "I'm rotating the shields. I don't know how they're getting this." It's like, no clue. It's like someone's spying and relaying information.
Yeah, if they're cutting through your shields, rotate the shield frequency.
Yeah, but like that's sort of the evolution from going from miniatures to the full CG, and I didn't mind that because you have more freedom in CG.
Oh yeah,
but there was still practical stuff in there. Because while I was in college, I was taking a course for 3D graphics and technology and for like video games and things like that, and they were showing actually that clip of Voyager crashing. And they had like gotten like test footage and the practical effects to simulate the snow rising up to that. It was actually white sand.
Huh, cool.
Yeah, so like they flipped it up and then they just like CG'd Voyager into it afterwards. So it was kind of like a cool little mixture in between the two. Because back then, like I was watching guys watching trailers like Riot Games for League of Legends, and they're watching these CG trailers, and it's just like, that's no way possible to do that. And I'm like, the way that people are cranking these out, you couldn't do that. You could do that 15 years ago, but it would just take longer.
Yeah.
Because particle effects in 3D animation was really, really, really tricky, and the PCs that we had back then took forever to render them, unless you had like a huge render farm. Anyways.
Unless you were Pixar, basically.
Unless you were Pixar. And even then with Pixar, like, when you think back to the CG stuff, the time between like Toy Story and A Bug's Life was like 4 years or something like that.
Yeah.
And nowadays like 3D movies are cranked out like nothing. Probably doesn't take them that long to make anything. And they're like 3D shows too. So, anyways, your thoughts on the evolution of the effects for Star Trek?
What? Yeah, you were talking about the effects, and I am kind of like, I think I'm at that point where I can appreciate the old effects and the new effects. And it brings to mind the re-release of the original series where they CG the ship. Yeah. There's a lot of controversy about that. I'm going to stay pretty neutral about it. But I'm just saying it's just an excuse to get the original series out there again. Because, goddamn, kids got to see that shit. You know? But effects-wise, I think the thing that pops in my head the most, like you said, like, your favorite crash was the Voyager into the ice planet.
Yeah. As far as CG goes, as far as practical goes, Enterprise D and Generations, because that was all practical.
That was my favorite crash of the that is my favorite practical effect of the entire franchise, because that was so well done. Like the pacing of the crash, the damage, like the miniatures were so detailed.
If you even call them miniatures, I've seen the behind the scenes of the saucer section crash. That version of the saucer they have was humongous. I think it was like 3 meters long.
Yeah,
like it was huge.
It really called to mind like almost like the evolution of the effects that Lucas pioneered during Empire and A New Hope. It's like those models, and just kind of just blew it up to a Hollywood, like a bigger budget, like a modern Hollywood budget.
Because when you look at the trench of Star Wars, when you look at that trench run, that's just like one model that's stretched out like onto like a highway or a parking lot, and the camera like zooms in on that. That was the same thing with in Generations when the Enterprise crashes. That's just one long like track of in like a parking lot or on a highway, and just like with miniature trees and shit like that, and dust, and it just like shot after shot of them. And I think it was like what they used a high speed camera too, so it was filming film at a higher frame rate, and it was just like they crashed that thing like several times for different angles, and makes you appreciate that stuff a little bit better than just doing it in a computer.
And like you mentioned earlier, like the evolution of just like the ships in motion, the planet, the stars, the even the anomalies. I'm just gonna categorize every spacey, unexplained thing as anomalies. It all got better and better and better. And I think the real leaping point was in DS9, where like ships were like bobbing and weaving and like cruising and looping around, and like you showed me a clip before this podcast where it was a battle on DS9 in the alternate universe where the alternate Defiant was like looping like in and out in between like the DS9 just going.
Yeah, he was taking on birds of prey, and then he started like going towards a giant Klingon battlecruiser, and Cisco takes the helm, and he starts like flying in close, and it's just like he's just like taking pot shots here and there, and then that little pulse phaser thing I always like. Yeah, that was pretty sweet.
I think DS9 basically brought out like this is the Federation at war, and when you want to bring such a heavy thing, you got to bring it hard, because if you just kind of half-ass it and just do the usual like stare downs you used to have in like early TNG and the original series, you're not going to get very far. You're not going to stimulate your audience like you used to. And I think that's where they really pioneered the logic, the thinking, and just like all the it brought out a whole new way of thinking behind writing these battles, because I remember there was a bunch of cadets trying to pass a test in TNG, and they were like, "Oh, we gotta practice this formation."
Oh yeah, the one with Crusher Wesley.
Yeah.
And God, they swear to God, I've read this in interviews and magazines. It was the same actor who was Tom Paris, but he said that wasn't Tom Paris. But in the first episode of Voyager, they referenced the accident. He's like, yeah, that was my fault. I'm just like, okay, so are you Paris in TNT or are you not Paris? Make up your mind. Another one of those, that continuity thing there. Oh yeah, that brings it to the grand scheme of things. There's like several episodes with like the Minion War, like when the Minion takes over DS9. That's a fantastic battle. When DS9, or when the Defiant Federation and Klingons are fighting to get back to DS9, because they had a minefield set up at the wormhole so no one can come through. Like, that's a phenomenal one. Just watching like the Defiant like weave through this fleet of ships just trying to pass through. Those are phenomenal shots. Actually, going back real quick, I got one more to put on my worst list. It's the episode of DS9 where Nog and Jake are heading back to DS9. They're attacked by the Dominion, and this other Defiant ship saves them. But it's not the Defiant. It's called the Valiant, and it's run by fucking kids. They're cadets.
Yeah.
They're this group called Red Squad. And they're like, we're Red Squad. We're the best. We get the best training, the best everything. And like the commanding officer, the instructor, dies and stupidly like gives command to the little kid. And so the little kid's like, okay, we should probably go back to a base. It's like, no, this is my ship. We're gonna take on the Dominion ourselves. And they come up with like this stupid plan that probably like any other person would shot down like right away, and then they go and do it, and they're just like, oh, what happened? It's like, we hit the target. It just didn't work. Oh, what do we do now? Boom, and then everyone dies. Like the one little girl that lived on the moon survived, and they're just like, it's like he was a good man, but he was a bad captain. I mean, just the worst. He was a good captain who'd just be like, I am not prepared for this kind of anarchy. Let's go back. It's like, hi, our instructor's dead, and we flew the ship by ourselves. It's like, okay, we'll get you back to Earth. You need more training. But I got the ship already. He's like, give us the ship back. You're going back to Earth. Hated that episode. Absolutely hated that.
Yeah.
Those kids deserve to die.
Oh, I think maybe something we touched on a little bit earlier, but something that definitely needs to be talked about: celebrity cameos, like Andy Dick in Voyager.
Okay, I'm not an Andy Dick fan, but watching Kevin Picardo trying to run that gigantic Prometheus ship, it's just like, I don't know how to make this thing go. Wait, I'll take stuff from life support. We don't need that. The funniest part, though, is like, we're going to have to defend ourselves. He goes to tactical, and he's just like, I don't know which one to push. He's like, find the one that says fire and push it. Andy Dick pushes the panel so hard, it bends. And he's just like, it's not working. It says the phasers are all flying. Well, then fire a torpedo. He fires a torpedo, hits a Defiant ship. He's like, what did you do? She hit the wrong ship.
Oh my god.
Who else made a big cameo in that? I mentioned The Rock. I mentioned Big Show.
Yep.
Dan Cadera, is that his name? Or Canisa? The guy that was his co-star, Scott Bakula's co-star in Quantum Leap. He was in an episode of Enterprise.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So there's a Quantum Leap
reunion
cameo. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we talked about Decay coming back to do Voyager, to do the Star Trek 6 reenactment, because apparently Tuvok was on that ship and not on the Enterprise B. Wait, that wasn't even Tuvok.
No.
The same actor.
Same actor.
I think like they gave Tim Russ has had a lot of guest roles. I think after a while they were just like, hey, do you want a full-time gig? Same with Vaughn Armstrong. He has played so many different aliens that they're just like, let's give you a regular role. You're going to be the first admiral of Starfleet, Admiral Forrest.
Yeah,
I like the admiral suits were pretty cool in that. It was like basically that little jumpsuit, but they had like a shirt and tie. And I thought that was pretty cool. I'm trying to think of other celebrities that were on Star Trek.
There's, I think, things that come to mind first, like Scotty in TNG.
Oh yeah, the cameo. So like
Bones in the first episode of TNG.
Spock.
Yeah, we mentioned that
James Cornwell was in the first episode of Enterprise. He was the one that kind of passed the torch, because it's like, okay, we can't have anyone from the other series kind of pass the torch, because this is the first one. So why not have a recording of him as Cochrane talking about making the Warp 5 engine? Because DS9 had Picard, because they're dropping off Cisco, Jake, and O'Brien.
Yeah,
it was the funniest thing, because like O'Brien's last time on the Enterprise, and he's just like, oh, O'Brien, didn't know you left yet. I called down here asking for you, and you weren't here. It always leads back to that joke I keep hearing like geek comedians make. It's just like, that's the worst job to have on a Starfleet ship. Transporter chief. Yeah. You can't get up to take a piss just in case someone wants to go beam down. You're standing there for 8 hours a day.
No, yeah.
The only one that was worse was being the helmsman on the Enterprise D before Crusher got there.
Oh,
it's like, you trained your whole life to be a like a navigator helmsman, and you're logged into the helmsman of the flagship of the Federation. How comes this little pissy Wesley Crusher is just like, oh, Wesley, why don't you take the helm? It's like, motherfucker. It's like, well, stop. I'm trying to make his mother. Make it so.
Shut up, Wesley.
Don't shout it on the bridge. Patrick Stewart's the king.
Oh yeah, that actually brings up, and every time we keep the ball rolling and keep thinking about new best and worst episodes, because that brings up the episode where Captain Picard Day. Remember that, where he was. Where the ship was like
some type of like interstellar, like I can't remember the details, but something hit the ship and made it like lose power, and everyone was on like their little like we're blocked outside, and we have like our own little adventures.
Yeah, it was pirates that had like this deadly like sweeping scan.
No, it wasn't pirates. That was different. That was they were at like a convention. Tim Russ was on that episode, actually.
What?
Yeah, Tuvok was on that. So there was this energy barrier that was sweeping it to try and get all the dust and all the grime and all the shit that was on the ship. And Picard got stuck because he tried to make this excuse. It's like, I don't want to go to this Admiral's dinner because he tells the worst jokes. He's like, oh, I forgot my saddle on the Enterprise. I wanted to go horseback riding. Hang on. He goes back off. He replicates a saddle, but he can't get off. So he's like stuck on the ship. But then like the pirates go down. I think they sick Data on the ambassador or on the Admiral. It's just like, you deal with these bad jokes. It's like, why? He's like, because you don't know if they're funny or not. Oh, quite right, sir. I'm not very well sense of humor. No, I think the one you're talking about Picard Day was Picard got stuck in a turbo lift with children.
Yes, that's
he took blips off, and he's just like, "You're going to be the ensign, or you're going to be lieutenant. You are going to be ensigns. All right, now, lieutenant, what do we do?"
Yeah,
and then they're like, "I don't want to play anymore." It's like, Starfleet officers can't quit.
And that's where you heard. That's where you really saw that. Patrick Stewart cannot speak a word of French, like Frère Jacques.
Oh yeah,
singing Frère Jacques. It's
like, calm them down.
It's like, oh, you're so British it hurts, and you're playing a French character. And Picard, you remember Picard's family, the brother, like how nobody actually put any effort into putting like a French accent or inflection or anything remotely French.
No. That was actually like the episode right after Best of Both Worlds. He took Shorely to visit the family, and it was like, I can't, I was violated by the Borg.
The Borg touched me in my naughty place.
It's a Troy, just like, okay, Captain, where did the Borg touch you? They ran a hose through my head.
They ran a hose through my butt, and they didn't have to, but I must say, I actually enjoyed the experience.
I actually asked Dr. Kusher if she could leave it in there. She said, no, you kind of need your anus to live. I think, actually, going back, the only series to ever bring up how do you go to the bathroom in space was Enterprise. Because they were doing a recording for a 4th grade class. It's like, when you go to the bathroom in space, where does it go? I think I'm going to let our chief engineer answer that. He's like, pause recording. A poop question, Captain? You stick me with a poop question? And then you learn and you find out that everything gets recycled. Poop can be turned into boots.
Oh
you literally can walk around the Enterprise in shit kickers.
Well, it's true because everything gets demolecularized and the pure matter gets repurposed into other stuff.
Yeah, because like when I look at Voyager, they had bathrooms back there, and like their bathrooms were weird because they had those pull-out sinks that would light up and the water would start pouring.
Yeah, because there were scenes where I think there was a scene where you saw Tuvok shaving, and you saw them in the bathroom.
Yeah, and then there's like, everyone said like, oh, I'm gonna use a sonic shower, and you think, what the hell's a sonic shower? I saw Torres use one at the end of the one where she was on the waist thing. She's like covered in shit, and she's just like, activate sonic shower. It doesn't like, it's not like a regular shower. It just pours down. Apparently, it's kind of like being in a microwave, but like these little bubbles that just like form around you. And I'm just like, okay, we've got showers, we've got sinks, but we still don't have any toilets.
I can just see them rotate slowly, and just when they're done, it goes ding.
Your body is now dry.
Your body is ready.
Oh god, I think we've touched on everything.
There actually calls to mind. There is actually something really cool you can find on the web. There's this artist called Voltaire. He's a musician, and this is cool. He made an album entirely dedicated to his love of Star Trek and Star Wars called Bitrektual. It's a term he made up because instead of just like being pure Trek or pure Wars, he was bitrektual. A little pun on bisexual. So,
okay.
And what it's a whole album of songs about wars and Trek. And there's a song about red shirts and troopers who can't shoot straight or keep dying. And here's the cool part. He goes to a lot of conventions, right? So he actually got to talk to Garrett Wang and Russ, the guy who does
Tuvok.
Tuvok.
Tim Russ.
And there's a whole song where he does a duet with Dan Picardo.
Nice.
Yeah, the Doctor. And the album's available on iTunes right now. You can get it on CD Baby as well. I really recommend it. You just and there's this. He has these little in-betweeners. I think there's like two. One where his 4-year-old son actually points out plot holes in Star Wars. It's hilarious. And there's this other one where he talks about pooping on the Enterprise, where Picard's like, "Worf, we need you on tactical now," and you just hear Worf just go back, "I can't. Why? Why can't you be? We need you. It's an emergency. I'm in the latrine, sir." It's like, what's that? Oh yes. Riker says, "Is it a number 1 or a number 2? Number 2." It's like
when you told me about when you mentioned the kids digging the plot holes in Star Wars, it always comes up to that episode of Clerks Animated where Jay is suing Dante and Randall for $10 million because he slipped on orange soda inside the Quick Stop. And for no reason, Randall just calls George Lucas up to the stand. He's just like, "What does this have to do with me and Jay?" And he goes, "Okay, honor, permission to treat the witness as hostile. Hey, George, how come in episode 1, or how come in Empire Strikes Back, Obi-Wan says he was trained by Yoda, but in episode 1 he's trained by Liam Neeson? Well, the way that Padawans are, it's like, and how come he said in Jedi when he met his father, who was a great warrior and pilot, but he's just a little kid?" He's like, just admit you didn't come up with this 20 years ago, that you wrote it down on a napkin and tried to give me money for it. I want me $8 back. He gets $8 from George Lucas. He's like, "Get him out of my sight."
Oh God.
Then he calls up a bunch of other people. It's like, "What was the deal with that movie?" He calls up Joel Schumacher. "Man, Batman and Robin was so gay."
Well, we are veering off the deep end.
Yeah,
now.
we are.
Yeah,
which kind of means that I think we're at time for this one. Yeah, we've gone for about 90 minutes.